I'm Barclay Crenshaw, and this is Nick, aka Superfuture.
Hello.
Tell us what you got going on.
I guess the little elevator speech about Superfuture's life right now would be like there's a lot going on. I'm expecting a baby, my first.
Oh, sick.
Yep, in August, and that's been like the center of my attention for sure. But I'm trying to I'm in like a palate cleansing phase where I've had a bunch of like ideas in one hand of like really ethereal down tempo, and then some other side of me that has bass and hip hop, and I felt like I needed to kind of just step away from everything and like get a bunch of things in check on like the other areas of my life so I can go into tour season feeling like really whole, and
Yeah.
just listening to like a bunch of like alternative music, things to kind of like I enjoy the palate cleansing phase, but it's kind of scary because you end up you don't know what's going to
Yeah.
come out on the other side. But I'm always experimenting, and that's like the nature of my writing process. So it's exciting, but also
I
like I don't want to forget how I did bass a year ago, because it's you know that
yeah,
feeling.
it's technical.
Yeah.
Well, I do know exactly what you're talking about because I'm about to leave on a tour that you will be on
Friday.
a little bit. You're going to be in New York on the release party,
Yeah,
right?
the party, the album
Yeah.
release. I'm stoked.
And then Detroit, of course, where you're.
Oh yeah.
Do you live in Detroit? You live outside Detroit? I don't know.
Ferndale. So I call it Detroit
Ferndale,
for
yeah,
people
okay.
who aren't from Michigan. And then when I say it to people who are in Michigan, they're like, it's the in
It's Detroit
between.
enough.
I agree.
uh, yeah, I mean, I'm not really from Detroit either. My parents live in Grosse Pointe, which if you told someone from Detroit you were from Grosse Pointe, they'd be like, yeah, you're not from Detroit.
Yeah, that's where
But
Riley's family's
it
from
is
too.
pretty much Detroit.
Yeah,
It's all, Detroit is massive. It's got a lot of
the
community.
Metro Detroit.
Yeah. But yeah, then you're gonna be at the Detroit show and then Seattle. So those are all awesome. I'm so happy you're gonna
Oh
be
yeah,
on those. I think those are right. I don't
that
know.
sounds right. I
I
had my
I try
thing.
to print it out beforehand, but you never
Me
know.
too, and I lose it every single time. Yep, the link's gone. Um,
But this thing that you're talking about, I'm prepping right now, and I'm really like hyper conscious about not going in and getting sucked in to like 45 minutes of 140 dubstep.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like, I want to break it up all the time, change the sound, play rap music, play
oh
funk,
yeah,
play like all the stuff that I like instead of. I think that I was in this kind of trap before as Claude Von Stroke. I made house, I played house, and I had a house label. So playing anything other than house, maybe you could throw it in for 45 seconds, but it's not really gonna. It's not what people are there for. So I'm trying to set the expectations like right from the start. You don't know why you're here.
oh, for the crowd. That's my
Yeah,
favorite way to
like
approach
I'm
things. I
sorry
like that.
because you're not getting like what this hard set the whole time. Forget it.
Yeah, I think people like, especially the Wakan. I mean, you draw from a lot of different crowds. I feel like because you're prolific in a bunch of different areas, in my opinion, and the Wakan family might expect one thing, but um,
Yeah,
one of the reasons why I think your set stuck out to me the most was in that night, and I've been listening since before Wakan Fest 2022. Um, to Barclay Crenshaw's project. I used to play the Gene sequence in a lot of my
thank you.
sets.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, it's sick. What people got out of that set, in my opinion, was like this is a total break from what we came here for in the best way possible, and it resonated with me so much. In the journey that I've kind of like found myself orbiting, like your project in a way has been so cool because while I've been kind of part of the Wakan circles and various other bass circles, um, I've been looking for people who have taste in the area of rap music that spans like generations and brings different sounds that can accommodate like grime, like UK styles, the US dubstep approach, rap and everything in between, and everybody just had their jaw on the floor being like, what is this new sound? But really it's not new. It's like a revitalized version of
very old.
It's very old, but people needed to hear that to just shake it up. And that's why I'm so excited to hear what you got in this tour, and I'm kind of approaching it the same way.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm psyched you're going to be on it. I mean,
thank you.
For me, I think like, I don't know. I just, I really just want to do a lot of stuff. Like I mean, this is going to sound totally nuts, but I'm writing raps every day now to just try, because I tried to rap on my album and then I realized, you can't just say you're going to rap on your album and then write a rap in one day and expect it to be any good.
I relate.
If you haven't been trying it at all. So now I'm like, I'll write rap for 6 months or a year and then I'll start recording it. And then I'll try it out and kind of get a voice. Cause it's kind of terrifying at the same time. Because you're really putting it out there then. You're on the line.
I've tried. It's not, I know what you mean.
So I'm going for it, but who knows how long that's going to take for me to feel comfortable doing it. But I'm there. And I'm producing my son. Like we're making a track now and he's singing. And I'm just trying to get all over the place.
I like the commitment. The voice is hard to find. I thought like just playing with various aspects of rap, especially since I came from like a rock and roll background, listening to people who do it so well and then working closely with some people who do it well, I thought like, I'll just get a better mic and write some things down. And then I had to replace like an Eazy-E hook that I had on my last EP with, I put on a Rez's label, and it was getting down to the wire. And I was like, I can't find any samples. I can't make anything work. I'm just going to write something and just shoot from the hip. And every time I listen to it, it's like the title track too. And I'm like, I know it's,
but you're the only one that knows.
True. I agree. I overprocessed it to try to mask how my voice was.
I mean, that's kind of the problem for me. I really liked watching that show Dave, for example, because I feel like that guy kind of like found his spot, even though he's a dorky,
I love it,
like comedian white guy. He found his little lane, and he's comfortable in that lane, and that I think that's admirable. It's tough to get to that point.
I like the show for the same reason. There's a lot of things that are relatable in that show because, or to artists who are trying to find their way. I think it's hilarious for anybody to watch, but there's aspects of it where like, I get what he's talking about. I get what he's trying to rap about in his lyrics, and people who I'm watching it with will be like, it's funny, right? I'm like, oh, it's not that funny because it's funny, but it's not because it's real.
Yeah.
Dave is
funny. I mean, he cracked that show cracks me up because he's like, if LeBron James retweets him, it's like his life's achievement. It's just like there's funny things in that show that just make you laugh.
Jack Harlow berating him and is like the best moment of his life.
So you're originally from Rochester, Michigan, right?
That's right. Well,
because the funny part of that is that Nicole told me you're from Rochester, but she thought I went to University of Rochester, but it's in New York, and she thought they were the same thing, but they are not.
Close.
But go ahead.
That's the only other Rochester that I know of. I was born in like the St. Clair Shores area, grew up in Rochester. And you said you grew up in Grosse Pointe, or that's where your parents are from?
I was born in Cleveland Heights, where the Kelsey brothers are from. And then we moved when I was like 7th grade. So then I was there until college.
Right on.
In Detroit. Yeah. Grosse Pointe, whatever.
You know, one of the coolest things that, and I don't like, I like to think of things in like an interesting psycho-spiritual way, but one of the coolest things that I remember that has to do with you was, and the fact that we're playing at Electricity in Pontiac, was that in college, up until this point when I was a junior in college. This is like 2012, 2013, at Michigan State. I got out of a relationship. I was like totally down in the dumps. I needed like something to just like shake up my life. And I was like a metalhead, played in metal bands in Rochester. And I remember hearing like I was like, I'm just going to go to the bar, pick up a new, like I loved watching the DJs do their thing. So I got really interested in DJing. All of a sudden I get like into Skrillex immediately. It was that time frame when like Skrillex was having his rise. And then I go home to see my old friends that I hadn't seen in a while, because I was just like got out of the relationship. They're like, have you ever gone to like electronic show? And I was like, no. But I want to hang out with my boys. Like I got to have some like hometown hangouts. And I went with my buddy, and it was I don't know if it was like a homecoming kind of show, but it was like Claude Von Stroke is playing at Electricity in 2012. Okay. It had to be. And you're going with us. And it was my first time kind of like entering a rave environment at Electricity. Cool. And they showed me a fantastic time. I was just totally off my rocker, had the greatest time. And
so it was good.
It was fantastic. Yeah. Cause it was I loved it. It was different. It was fun. I was with my boys from high school again, just hanging out after the breakup. I needed it. I was like, okay, cool. I'm really starting to like electronic music. But the fact that fast forward now that we're playing this Electricity show is huge full circle, because over a decade passes. But that was my first electronic show, seeing you doing your Claude thing. And now I'm playing with you, going on your tour. So there's like a huge, for me, some kind of like spiritual timeline connection that like, I'm loving where my life is, because we're kind of working together in like various capacities here. And like, just the fact that it was at that same place. And that was like a very like pivotal time for my life, when I'm doing electronic music now. All of those factors have just like converged on this interesting moment that we're going to have at Electricity for me.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Wow. So you, that was your first show. That's wild. Mm-hmm. That's kind of cool to me, because I hear stuff like that sometimes, and it's just, who knows what I was thinking at that show. But I definitely wasn't thinking, there's some kid in the crowd who's never been to a show that I'm going to go on tour with in 10 years. But that's amazing.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool.
Do you ever get people who hit you up to say various things like that? Like, you have no idea what I was going through, but this just made my whole like year has been changed since I saw you. And those kind of moments, I try to hold on to and think about when I'm like really lost.
Yeah.
But you never know.
I get those more. I do get those from our festivals, mostly from our festivals, because we put so much energy into those when we were doing them. But musically, I noticed that I get that more on this project. And I think that might be due to the variation and the ability to really swing all over the place and like build mountains and valleys. You can kind of do in a house set, but it's not like, to have an epic house set is for it to stick out dramatically from the other house sets is very difficult. I would say I tried to do it all the time, and sometimes I was successful and sometimes it wasn't that good, of course, but everybody has those days. But I think on this, it's like the amount of so when I was doing Claude Von Stroke, I would just be like, do I like this track? I'll put it in the folder. The level of curation on this project is so much higher than that. It's not like, oh, do I like this track? It's like, is this the weirdest fucking track at 85 BPM that I can possibly find on planet Earth? Because I'm only playing like 4.
In that range.
It's like,
yeah.
it or whatever. It's like, you know what I mean? Is this the best drum and bass track that I can find on planet Earth this week? It's kind of like, because I'm playing so many different things, my curation level has gotten crazy. Like, I'm ruthless.
Do you overthink it? Because
I don't overthink it. I'm just ruthless on what gets in.
I'm overthinking it all the time, but that's very important to consider. Like, I think when I'm making a set or trying to like swap something out for like to keep the same energy level in that point in the set for me, because that's how I approach it. Like the peaks and valleys, like you said, does it fit the intensity or the rise that I'm going for, or does it just switch something up completely and have like a moment that will be remembered?
Yeah. You're thinking about like what's going to happen more, maybe.
Yeah. I overthink
in this
that
genre.
Shit.
Like, I just played in just bringing back the Wakan thing. I did the times that I played the Wakan Festival were amazing, because I didn't know, I was like fish out of water, just showing up, playing like what I prepared, I didn't listen to any of the people that were, I wasn't like actively listening to what everyone was playing, like leading up to it. I just went in completely blank slate, which is probably why it worked.
Yeah.
But I just played it in Dallas, and I did overthink it, and I don't think it worked. I was like trying to get in to this like groove, and it wasn't. I didn't hit it the same way, because I was just trying to play a bunch of stuff that I thought everybody wanted to hear, and that's the mistake. You can't do it.
Yeah. There was a lot of cool pyro too. That always adds to the
right.
The fire will do things. I think that was one of the coolest sets because of, and I'm happy you didn't over listen to or like think about what was coming on in the sets before yours, because it was so, it was a great way to shake up what was going on for that whole day. And that's why I think that's why it was memorable for me. And then I had just taken mushrooms.
I knew you were going to say something like that.
I paused so you do. I had just taken it, and I started texting somebody. I'm happy somebody, Mytham, reminded me, is like, Barclay's on now, so we got to run to front of house.
Oh, so he was there?
He was with me too.
Did I meet him?
He wasn't with me when I came to say hi, but have you
This is fascinating, because I'm playing a lot of his tracks now, and I had no idea who he was.
He's great.
And he just keeps sending me folders, and I'm like, oh my, whoa.
He's amazing.
Geez,
yeah.
This guy's nasty.
Dude's on a tear. I like his sound a lot. I was with him and a couple other artist friends, and we were like, gotta run to Barclay Crenshaw, gotta get front of house. So I had a really good spot for
cool.
listening. And then I take the mushrooms had pretty much just started to take effect. I started texting somebody, and then Rekno like shakes me, is like, Nick, he's playing your song, and it opened up with the gas pedal flip, and I was like,
whoa, there you go.
On the ground, yeah.
That kind of stuff happens to me all the time. So I'd probably talk to you probably a week before, maybe, and then you're just like, oh yeah, here's a folder. And it literally, I have a little Apple Note called Dubs, and because so many people send me links, I just put the links in there, and then like once a week I'll just do the links, because you can't download them individually.
Yeah.
But when you sent me those, I did download them right away, and I was like, oh, straight in. This one's straight in.
Hell yeah.
And there was like 3 or 4 of them, and I was like, man, you can't play like 5 Superfuture tracks in one set.
I invite it.
All right, so what is it Samsara family?
Oh, wow.
What is that about?
Yeah, that's kind of something that's stuck in time for me. When I got to Grand Rapids, which the bass scene there has really blown up since Electric Forest started to really like invite that sound to, and that the Chads brought a lot of bass music and a lot of other good music to Grand Rapids. I lived there from 2015 to 2020. And
Grand Rapids.
Yes. So I kind of
The city with the burrito poster that sold 5 million burritos or whatever, and then you go there and you're like, how did they sell 5 million burritos?
I didn't even know that. Some
Whatever.
Chipotle.
It's one of the main billboards when you roll in. It's like, come to the place we've sold 5 million
I
burritos.
must be
And then you
numb
go
to
there
it.
and you're like, how did they do it? It's not that good. But
Yep.
whatever.
I that's funny because it totally went over my head. When I was in Grand Rapids, that was right after I graduated from Michigan State and didn't really have any music connections besides DJing at like frats and bars at Michigan State. And I couldn't get a gig to save my life in 2015, 2016, just trying to like go to the bars and get a hobby job because I had my engineering job already. I wanted stuff to do on weekends. So I don't know, like I knew that there were people who listened to the kind of music I was loving, and it was future bass and trap music for me back then. That was like everything I loved. So that's part of the Superfuture name. And I would go to these like little bar, like every city back then that had like anybody, there was always one little bar that had people just like playing dubstep for themselves because no patrons would come. It was just a bunch of DJs playing for each other. And there was like a little nucleus of that happening in Grand Rapids because you had the people who would be support acts for the shows at the intersection, and then you had the DJs who were just like DJing for fun or trying to start making music. And I had already started taking classes on to like get good at Ableton after work and stuff like that. So I knew I had a little bit of talent because I really liked what I was making, and I couldn't find anybody everybody was just a DJ in that town at that time. And I really enjoyed getting to know the people and playing a couple like small bar gigs. But I wanted to after like a year of that, I was like, there's gotta be people out here who are producers. So I started to kind of like exit doing that and find people of any age I could find who would just be a producer, and maybe they're the kids who are like too shy to DJ, but they're a bedroom producer. And I got connected with a few of them over socials, and then I found like 6 guys, and started to hang out with them more because I was more a producer than a DJ. And that was like a beginning of my transition to be like really heady into producing. It's awesome that Great Dane's involved in your tour too, because the common ground we found was like Team Supreme. And that's something that I think that he started a while ago. We were really into that sort of sound. We're like, we want to make our own thing. Like we liked each other's music. It was me and like 4, 5, 6 other guys. We would just hang out at each other's houses and have little like, we called them like retreats where we would just drink, smoke, write music, and whatever happened. And then we would we wanted to do this thing where we were like, if we're going to do something big, it has to be like together as a family, and that it has to kind of supersede like the little DJ scene out here. We want something, we want the intersection to see us. We want like the local cities to see us. So it was going to be something family, because we were just going to be like a family of like bedroom producers who had like put out mixtapes. We did that. And the name we came up with was Samsara, because the Samsara, in the process of in like the karmic cycle, nirvana is something that you reach. But before that, you have your samsara, which is loosely interpreted as the point at which you go through cycles where you don't quite reach the level of teaching or skill learning that you need to surpass and go to the next level. So you're in this endless cycle of like karma and samsara, where you're becoming a student basically in this teaching cycle where we're forever students, basically, is what we interpreted it as. And I was kind of leading it because I was the oldest. And all of a sudden we started putting out mixtapes in the Grand Rapids scene and getting like a street team who really liked our sound and finding people to help support us. And it was a really fun way to build like something huge in the city of Grand Rapids where there wasn't something before.
When you say mixtapes, were they actually tapes, or are you just talking about SoundCloud?
SoundCloud, yeah.
Okay.
We didn't like write them to tapes. Like,
No, I grew up and I sold rap tapes door to door in high school.
fair enough. Yeah, we did not touch anything like analog equipment wise. I wish I did. I wish I
It's
knew more about it
interesting
then.
that origin story, if you call it, that kind of sounds like a little bit like Dirty Bird, where
Cool.
we just all teamed up. I would say our dynamic was more kind of like who can shock the other person more with like the newest sound or like trick, because we would play local parties where there would be no people, but we would always try to one up whatever song had just been made.
Cool.
Even if there was no one there, it was just kind of like, I just remember debuting so many songs that were just made to try to be better than the last song that was made in our group.
That's a great dynamic. Is this in like California?
Yeah, that was all in San Francisco. But the teacher aspect of this, I feel like you are kind of a natural teacher. You were even kind of teaching me some bass patches and some routing and like serum and some stuff like that. And in the way that I got started, I actually I'm like a pre-internet person. There was no information for me when I was a kid. It was like magazines from the UK or nothing, or just finding out like how gear worked was impossible. Everything was $10,000.
Oh yeah.
I tried to make music a bunch of times and I was like, I just keep making music and not getting anywhere because I don't know what to do with it. And so I made it because I was working at a post-production house, like an editing place, editing Men's Warehouse commercials.
Oh, nice.
I would get free camera equipment, and then I would go on Craigslist and get people with cameras to come out with me. And I went to every club night in San Francisco. Then I went to Detroit. Then I went to Miami, and I interviewed about 50 DJs and asked them exactly, how did you get popular? What did you do?
Tech stuff.
How did you start your label? What was the steps?
Sweet.
And then I made that into a DVD, and I edited each interview for like 50 hours a piece into these 5-minute clips. So I knew everything about every DJ. And then I ran out of money and I had to make music because I couldn't pay them to license their music. So I had to make music that sounded like them. So by the end of the movie, I knew every detail about how they made it, and I would make tracks that sounded like them. So I was able to become a house producer.
That's crazy. I'd never heard anything about
this. But I made the movie
origin.
because I wanted to teach people how to skip the steps, because I couldn't skip the steps. It was driving me crazy.
So you were kind of ahead of your time in that department, because how-to videos are a huge thing now that people can access and do by themselves. But I like how that turned into you becoming a producer, knowing everything.
But you do that now, right? Like you teach some people.
I'm teaching right after
And how does that
this,
go for you?
It was a way to make money during COVID at first. And I like the fact that it kept my tools sharp. And about one every 5 sessions, I'll actually make something. I prepare like the teaching thought process, but I don't prepare like the exercises I'm going to do with somebody. Like there's like, I don't, you know how people like make like mud pies and such, they call them.
No.
Okay, cool. We can cover that sometime too. They call them different thing. Basically you just make this like, this mess.
This is a food thing?
No,
music?
Sorry, it's a music thing.
Okay.
So they're called different things, and when you just make a piece of sound that you can mangle and re-record and such like that, like there's got to be different names for it.
I get it. I have that stuff. Like I call it just like nasty patch or whatever, and then I go back into it. Right.
Yeah.
I get it.
The people use them in a whole range of ways, from like making the sound patches programmed or making the actual audio thing that they can reuse and mangle.
It it's like a template sound.
Sure. Yeah. It's something that they end up being samples sometimes. So when I was teaching somebody to resample something and just like destroy a sine wave or a sub wave and turn it into something that like Cursa would do, that kind of sound.
Got it.
And I ended up making a patch with somebody as I was teaching them how to resample something and compress sine waves and make just like really gritty sounds that I remember specifically going and finishing this, and I was like, oh, I can't wait to finish this session because I need to go make a song. I need to go make something with this. And they actually turned into there's this track called Movimiento that I put out a couple of years ago that has these like snarling bass patches that came from a session I did while I was teaching somebody. And if you just save those little banks of like audio, you never know where they're going to come back. And I've taken teaching sessions and gone to make them into full tracks before, which has been crazy.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that makes sense because you're talking about it and you get hyped about it and then you want to use it after.
Yep. And the more that I'm doing it, I find less time to teach. So it becomes more difficult, but every time I'm doing it, I remind myself of these old tricks I used to have, or like it's a nice way to not keep your sound stale because you're just reinventing how you approach things. And that's important to my process. Like I get bored of sounds pretty quick. So I'll just go sound design and make a whole new bunch of stuff for my next wave of sounds.
That's a cool way to work. I should do more of that.
Let's do a week. We'll do a week and then we can come up with some crazy. You never know what you can do in a week of just sound design.
I know. I feel like I'm trying to make the finished beat and that might not be the right way to start some of this stuff. But anyway, you have your own tour going on and like you're going everywhere and you're super busy. So I can see how you might not be able to teach all the time. Does this have anything to do with you becoming a new father? I'm suspecting that maybe you're getting busy because this is what happened to me.
I would love to talk about that sometime too, because I could use all the advice I could get as a like musician entering fatherhood. But I know we've talked a little bit about it and you encouraged me, which was nice. And that's a whole other tangent we could go on. But when we're talking about this tour is actually important because for the past few years, I think it started in like 2018 or 2019. I've thought about making a side project where I have just exclusively like down tempo, like ethereal beats and bass, like stuff that's danceable and has like a strong beat to it, but is like sexy, like pulls from like R&B, and has these components to it that are just like not necessarily what you'd find in a Superfuture set if you caught me doing bass music. And I started to need to find an outlet for it. And Liquid Strangers down-tempo label was my first outlet for it. I put out like a 7-track EP out on there. And
what's that called? I don't even know.
So his down-tempo label,
so it's
called Sisquan. And it's like there's like you know how he's like he draws from like Native American influence on some of his names and so forth. Wakan, I believe, is that.
Yeah, it's something like that.
Sisquan is like
at one
the
point.
opposite. It's like the female energy of.
Got it.
Yeah, Wakan is like I hope I don't get this wrong. It's like grandfather, like like some kind of like earthly but like cathartic but cool energy, and then Sisquan is like the antithesis of that in like a female, more ethereal way. And he's also wanted to balance out his entire thing. And I've talked with him a little bit about it because that really took hold of me, because I've had this side project that I've was toying with coming through. It's just like really chill trap R&B, like really wavy stuff. And I started to do that at like festivals where people would book me to do like like a sunrise set. And I was doing that. And then I honed in all this music that I wrote during COVID because it came out of processing like I didn't know what was going to happen. It felt painful. I had like this side of me that needed to be expressed. And so I kept like really like diving into that sound, which I call down tempo, but it spans a little bit more than that. And it became a really cool way for me to process different like painful emotion or anger, and I would turn that into music. I would just write, and it was some of the most artistic things. Like, it was my first realization of like, I'm not trying to do what someone else has done. This is what
Yeah.
my self-expression is, and it turned out beautifully. And
That's cool.
so many things happened that like spiritually kind of kept me going down that path too, but I didn't ever want to drop like the yin and yang feeling, where I
Yeah.
have like Superfuture's bass and trap and whatever else experimental stuff, and then I have like this side of me that Liquid Strangers team co-signed, and it was like, we want this to be kind of part of what's developing in Sasquan too. But I've wanted to kind of really take hold of that at the same time. Like, astrologically speaking, I'm a Gemini, so I have multiple sides to me at any point in time on anything. The yin and the yang, the balance, and this whole like picture has started to come together where past like I'm spanning a few years time where I'm doing these secret sets. These, like, whenever I do an after party, I would play this down tempo music, and the way that people would look at me, or like I could just see a different feeling in everyone when I would play this style of music, because they were like, I feel healing from this. I feel like
Yeah.
this sexual, female, really cool energy that like I've also felt too, and that Sasquan's label represents. Like, last year, my tour was called Full Spectrum because I wanted to do journey sets where I involved all of that. But I've been honing in this sound just as much as my bass sound. And this is the year where I wanted to be like, I'm going to enter fatherhood pretty soon. So if I'm going to make a splash with this, I need to find all the promoters who are willing to do a night where I can do a curated lineup, and then my bass set, but then the primetime set is a down tempo bass set, because I want to show people that side of me in a way that they'll feel production and lights and
Yeah.
sound and AV.
Well, I think that this is great, and it's very timely. I mean, I just released a set like this
Mm-hmm.
like a week ago or whatever,
It was beautiful.
and I think it's awesome that you're saying this, because I think that almost everybody that I booked on my tour has this like other avenue, like tie dye and Great
Yes.
Dane, and you're doing it, and
Fly too.
Librarian and Fly. All these people like have a wider scope than just like the songs that everybody thinks that Liney just makes Noxious and that's it, and I don't think that's true at all.
He and I
But
talked about it too. He's got a whole
yeah, I can
other thing.
imagine. There's no way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't even talked to him, and I can just guess. But I think like that's a challenge to get. See, I'm trying to get it into the main set, and it's killing me.
It is
Like,
hard.
because I really want to get some of those into the main set, but yeah, you got to work. You almost have to talk to like be like, yes, guess what, everyone, we're gonna mellow out for 5 minutes. Do you like this guy CYGN?
I'm gonna
I think you should check
look
him
up
out.
right now, or CYGN.
He's got a lot of really cool stuff like this,
I
and it's
appreciate
like
anyone who
crossing
does.
into R&B.
Ah, okay.
Some of his older stuff's like very R&B. This new album is really just lo-fi-ish, but I think he's good. I think he's from France or something.
I'm gonna check him out. I think that when I was listening to your talk with Kyle a bit, it started to hit me that you are trying to curate something that's a little bit more well-rounded than other experiences, and I really appreciate that, because single genre affinity for people who love dubstep right now, that's always everybody I've met and have gone through like the past 10 years musically with, or as a artist and a listener, it's a phase. They love it. It draws you in, but like variety in music is something that you're interested, like over the course of your life, you want variety. In a phase, you want something really heavy and that grabs the shit out of you, like cathartically, and like does what dubstep does, or does what like heavy experimental music does. But variety is what you do in the journey of your life. And so us who have been doing this for at least a decade understand that there's so many different sides to us that need to be expressed. And all the people that you are bringing on have a lot of depth, but like variety is literally the spice of life. And it's a true phrase, and I think musically that's going to be cool to watch your tour do that.
Thank you. And I think that also the other thing about this is the longer that you DJ, so I'm like deep into into many
Respect.
years. The longer that you DJ, the more you can withstand. Meaning, you realize that every second of your set does not have to have everyone in the crowd freaking out, throwing their hands up, screaming at the top of their lungs. The longer that you DJ, and I don't know how many times I played a set where I'm like, oh, fucking nobody was into it. It's just garbage. And then some kid will just come up and be like, what are you talking about? It was the best set of the night.
Were you there?
And you're like, and it's kind of like you see maybe 30 your eyes can process 30 to 40 faces in the front 2 rows, and you don't know what's going on with your slinky little lo-fi R&B track that you're playing in the back of the crowd. There might be a whole little like party going on.
All the flow artists,
like sexy party.
Yeah.
I don't know. So
That's
I'm
true.
willing to push it. I'm willing to push I want it to have good energy, but I also want to, like, there's some songs on my album I'm playing where I'm like, good luck, motherfucker. Because it's not going to go over.
I hope you can take it.
I just played my agent, Max, who I love dearly. His wife just had a birthday, and she wanted me to play. And so my wife and I flew to New York just to DJ her birthday party.
Cool.
And they were playing like disco house, like fun, happy disco house for like 2.5 hours. And they're like, okay, you're on. And I'm like, guess what, everybody? You're all leaving the dance floor.
What did you play?
I cleared it. Straight up cleared it.
At least you warned them.
I didn't say that, but I mean, the people that wanted me there danced, and like some Justin J came, and he likes everything, he likes going totally off the beaten path. So he was dancing around, and that was it. I was like, cool. You asked for it, and I'm giving it to you. I could have just come and done like a little Claude said, and it would have been fine, but you asked for this, and I'm not going to break. I'm doing it.
That's good. I think being unapologetic about when somebody books you, and there's got to be a reason why, right? And that's sometimes something I overthink too. Like, should I pander to where I'm at? Like, am I at a heavy show? Am I at a chill show?
Yeah.
But if they book you, it's because, they know that you have something that wants to be heard in that environment. And sometimes it's not a total lock and key.
You gotta trust yourself.
That a better way of saying is, trust yourself.
What made me realize that it's possible to do this is my kids are really into Sampha, so we went to that concert. Yes. Then we went to Jacob Collier. That was amazing. Then we went to something else. Like, I saw James Blake at one point, and I'm like, these people are not playing bangers. They maybe play one banger. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The fans of that concert are there because they like that musician and they like the records that musician put out usually. So I think I made that mistake. I released this Barclay Crenshaw album. It was really like dusty-ish, like almost lo-fi, kind of hip-hop sounding. And I would only play like 2 of the tracks. It wasn't like a huge tour, maybe like 15 dates, but I didn't really give the audience. I was from this house mentality where you never give them anything. Like, you play like 3 of your songs, and then the rest of it nobody's ever heard. And this time around, I'm like, dude, you're gonna play the whole album, like at least 80% of the album, and you're gonna figure out how to do it. And if you have to talk a little, something. You got to talk a little, but to like put out an album, do a tour, and then not play any album tracks, you're setting yourself up to having to play hard dubstep the whole night. Do you see? Because you're not like giving them what they came to hear.
Yeah. And there's a few tracks of mine that I are like a love song that, you know, maybe doesn't fit anywhere in my set, that if I have time at the end, I'll actually have a moment and be like, this is for all the people who love like this song that I never get to play. And that becomes like a cool moment in itself.
Yeah.
But like the best way to do it, I agree with you, is to just like play the album, do it how you like intended your album to be listened to. It's like your set could be thought of as like an extension of your album, but you're still going through it.
I was like I initially started looking at all the music, like trying to build another Red Rocks Wakan thing, and I'm like, where are all the album tracks, man? You gotta make this into something more wavy and weird and like go all over the map.
I struggle with that too.
There's gonna be like 15 girls who wanted to hear Stay Together, and they're going to be so pissed that you didn't play it. You know what I mean?
And like, they'll DM you.
Right? And they'll be like, I really wish you had actually played some of the record.
Uh-huh. When I was touring with LS Dream, my set changed a lot because I went into it one way and started to get like, I didn't want people, I didn't want to let people's tweets or DMs affect me in a way that would make me change my set. But like, they were saying things to me that I thought I agreed with.
You were
like,
thinking yourself.
I needed to play more of the stuff that has a little bit more of like a poppy appeal because I liked making it when I wrote it. Like, it should have a place in the set. And it's hard to do that in 60 minutes. It really can be hard, especially if you get a shorter set even than that. But like, I say 90 minutes or two.
This is making me laugh because I've been traveling with this guy, Gabe, who is called Lightbender. He just does my visuals.
He's sick. Yeah.
Thank you. And at the end of the set, he'll just say things like, was it too weird? Like,
I couldn't see
it. He's like, I don't know. I feel like, did that rap part work or something? Because he'll have VJ'd the whole set and he'll be like, he'll just make a comment. He never says anything negative, which I really appreciate, but he will just say something like, was that a weird set?
It just throws off your entire night. Like,
I'm like, no, I get it. Cause you know what? He's usually right. Usually the people that are watching it can give you better feedback than yourself because you're like playing it. And you have a lot of moving pieces and you can't see the product.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're so zoned into how you're curating it that like, it's hard to take in everything that's happening. I've never watched a set. I had the opportunity to on LS Dream recorded, like he had like the front facing camera that could watch your whole set. And I various angles, and I never captured any of the footage. I'm kicking myself for it, but like,
to see your set.
Yeah. And I almost don't want to do that because I know I'm going to be like, fuck.
You're like, I can never go on tour again.
Yeah. I'm afraid
it's
of
so
what
embarrassing.
I'm but there's a lot going on, and that type of thinking, if you're trying to like take in everything that's going on, you're going to think too much. And I know how it'll affect me, but I see exactly what you're saying without really being able to articulate it myself. And it can be trippy, but ultimately I think I'm excited that your head's in the place of like trying to just like play what you want, because I want to follow suit with that. And I think that that's going to make the tour stand out.
I hope so. I hope people can be open-minded. I think they will be. I think I've done, it is a new project for me, but really I've been prepping it for 10 years. I've been doing every Dirty Bird camp out for 9 years or whatever. Yeah, I mean, it's not the first time I've ever. It's not like I'm just going out there with my pants down and I have no idea what's going to happen. Like I do kind of know what to do.
When was your first Barclay Crenshaw set?
2015.
How was that?
It was awesome.
Very
It was like
liberating.
unannounced. Dirty Bird Camp Out #1, 3 a.m. A guy who was friends. No, my label manager's boyfriend at the time ran like a weed dispensary, and he brought like a Santa Claus bag of joints, and all you just saw was this din of haze. He was just handing them out to hundreds of people in the crowd, and it's like 3 a.m. We're not even supposed to have sound on at the festival, and I played this like set, and I probably worked on for 3 weeks. Probably I worked on it probably 50 times harder than whatever I played as Claude.
I get it.
And that's when I started. That's when it started creeping in. Like, do you like this better? I don't
The
know.
voice in the back of your head was saying,
the little whispers started in 2015, and then they got louder and louder.
The open channel opened.
Took 10 years.
That's sick.
Well, 9 years.
Wow.
All right. We got to cap it, dude. We've been on for an hour.
Chopping it
which
up.
Is incredible. That went really fast.
I'm a long-winded talker.
That's okay. That's great. That's what we need.
I appreciate this. Yeah, this has been fun.
So tell us anything. You got any music coming out that we need to know about, or anything, any tour dates that you are like really special to you or anything?
I'm stoked for Webster. I'm excited to be part of your release party. Detroit in Pontiac's going to be cool. A lot of the stops on the tour that I'm doing with you are special places to me.
Cool. That's great.
I think I would say on like a selfish note, if you want to get to know like the entire Superfuture brain and heart, it's going to be at one of these shows where I'm doing both the experimental bass and the down tempo sets. But
okay. And how would I find that?
I think I pinned it to the top of my Instagram, this tour poster. There's like 7 or 8 dates where I'm doing exactly that. So I'll be on your tour, on Enzo's tour, and doing those sets. And I'm really excited to bring the mission that I have of bringing like a really well-rounded experience of like heavy bass and some beauty at the same time. But I will be compressing that into 60 minutes on the open channel tour with you.
My whole thing is to try to not play pre-programmed sets on this tour.
Cool.
I'm trying hard. It's a little bit tougher than I thought, just with like, but I took some notes from our buddy of the trees, and I really, really worked on my record box, because basically a lot of it is just like doing math. I'm so bad at math that I can barely even do 87 plus 87. Do you know what I'm saying? To like double ups and the droppers. And I'm just like, I don't know.
Is there math associated with it?
Yeah, you have to do 85 plus 80. I'm so dumb that I can barely process like what's half of 174, and find that. You know what I mean? Whatever. I'm always trying to jump around.
Was that back to back a bunch of math? The one you did in Denver?
No. He's like, let's just lock it in. That was like mostly dubstep, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll just go along. I don't know. I don't know how else we're gonna do it anyway.
That would be sick. I wish I caught it. So many times when you're booked, but you want to be somewhere so bad. I'm learning how that is, but I got a lot of videos. It was cool.
It's a good thing that you're booked. Let's just put it that way. You gotta be thankful.
Blessed for that. I'm thankful for that for sure. And thank you for having me. This has been a fun hangout, man.
Awesome,
I'm stoked for the tour.
We're still gonna make something.
Oh yeah,
I know it's gonna happen.
When I'm in this palate cleansing phase, getting through this is like bringing in all of these different inspirations, and I'm ready to just like go hard in the beat. Like for these next 3 weeks, you know, I think all of the stuff I've been listening to is just going to start to just like manifest into some really sick beats that I'll be excited to show you too. We're going to get that
Okay.
popping.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll see you in like 4 days.
Woo! Yeah.
Right? Something like that.
What is it? The 8th?
I mean, when this goes up, it might be like 1 day, but
perfect.
Whatever.
Well, either way,
all
I'm
right.
stoked to be in New York, man.
Okay. Let's say bye. Bye.
Bye, team.